Welcome to the Blue Collar Startup, the podcast where hard work meets big ideas. This is your home for real talk, real stories, and real strategies from the front lines of life and the business of the trades. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Nelson from Five Towers Media.
And I'm your co-host, Derek Foster, Dago Cleaning Systems.
Yeah, you
And
are.
I'm Jim Sasko with Teakwood Builders.
Welcome,
I'm here.
Jim.
How we doing?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate being invited on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So no, we're gonna kind of jump right into it. But before we do, obviously, we want to take a quick moment here just to give a shout out to our sponsors. These are the folks that help us raise money for tools and tuition for kids locally here at BOCES, HVCC, or what we commonly call the Blue Collar College here because of all the great trades. So, big shout out to the folks over at People's, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Michaels Group, Catamount Consulting, Northeast Construction Trades Workforce Coalition, and of course Dee's team at Dago Cleaning Systems, my team over at Five Towers. So let's get right into it, guys. Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself, about Teakwood. I mean, you guys are pretty well known locally, but we've got listeners all over the country, so want to educate them as well as who you are.
Cool. Well, thanks. So let me tell you a little bit about Teakwood first. We reference ourselves as a design build, remodeling, and new construction build contractor. So what does that mean? So we will take on projects for a client that has something as small as a bath remodel in their home, a basement fit up, small additions, and that is done with a design team on our staff that will help run the program of what the need is, develop the drawings, and then our estimating team puts budget numbers together. Our planners put together full work specs, and our team signs off on a contract. And then the other production side of it will build the project. That's one aspect of what we get involved in. And then the other would be, we refer to it as kind of luxury level building. And what does that mean? It usually entails a architecturally designed project that is the word custom is used quite a bit, and that is a fair game to call it custom. Luxury usually starts with a little bit more of an investment range, dollar investment for the build on that. And that's because of a lot of the products that are included within those builds. That may be the complexity of the project. It may be the location does play a factor to that. If we're building lakefront homes or something to that effect, there is more complexities of building lakefront projects. And again, the fit and finish, how it gets fit and finished as the end result, it tends to be that really truly bespoke finished project. That we love doing that. That's a good fit for us. What we don't compete with is, for lack of other terms, the production level building aspect. So we're not a developer. We don't buy land and build homes on it. We do more spot lot builds that are designed by an architectural team. And then we convert those visions into real products and building products. This is our 30th year in business. So happy birthday. And in one more week, we'll be 30 years old, which is
Nice.
remarkable because I don't look a day older than 35, right? So I started the business. This is, it's fun facts. Like, people say, how do you get into this, right? And I got into owning a business, operating a business, because you usually don't know any better at that age. 26 years old, and I'm told you're doing pretty good at this on your own. You should stick with it, and you could grow this thing to be something. Sounds great, right? You get peers that you trust in and are telling you you've got something, so you build upon that, but you don't know the hurdles that you're about to face, and you keep running, and you keep running, and you trip, and you fall, and you get back up, and you keep running, and it evolves over time to the point where you're like, wow, I've built something now that I don't think I'd go backwards with. I'll have to reinvest more dollars, more time, more people, more energy into this thing and get better results, because right now I'm not happy with the results. And I guess that's entrepreneurship, right? Like we are driven by so many factors of what we do. Sometimes it's the success of what we're building. Sometimes it's dollars that we're earning. But sometimes it's just the fact that we're building people to become better at what they are and who they are and what this industry is. And that, today, that's me. Like when people say, "What do you love what you do?" I'm like, "I absolutely love what I do." And they we can share some of the really cool projects we've been involved with, and that is exciting and that's really cool. And I like having awards for some of those projects. That's nice, but I certainly get more gratification out of hearing from a person that has been employed as part of this team for 25 years talk about where they've gone to, how their lives have changed, what they've grown into, how what they do for their families to this point. And that's a bigger feather in the cap to say I've had something to do with that, just with some leadership skills.
Yeah.
So it's enjoyable.
What
Jim,
did
oh, go ahead, Dean.
I was just going to ask, Jim, what did your role look like in the early days, and how did that evolve over time as you began to hire employees, and what did that look like for you?
I was hands-on. So I did go to school. I'm a Hudson Valley grad and finished up 2 years at Hudson Valley. Then I did transfer out to Utica College and did their construction management program. I have to say Hudson Valley's program was awesome back in the early 90s, and it still is today. None of my professors are there anymore, but there was a period of time when I would go back and speak to the students for a while just to share my story, tell them about how I got started and how the program there has helped me through my years. So to answer your question, Derek, I was hands-on. I knew how to do parts of the craft good or good enough. Some better, some not so good. And so earlier in my years, I went from truck, tools, running with my feet off the ground, estimates at night, sales at night, learning how to track dollars and to figure out, did I actually make $15 an hour on this job or did I make $3 an hour on this job? So you learn those lessons very early on. And I knew better to scale up from those things and would find out that I could find somebody that was a better trim carpenter than I was and bring them on board and hire them. And that worked well. And then I was more of a project manager and I'd find somebody that understood project management, but yet they still work with their tools. So we labeled it a lead carpenter and I was able to move again. So it was absolutely like an organic growth and with a lot of advice from, again, as I say, peers, National Association of Home Builders. I would attend seminars, listen to whatever I could, websites, joined a peer group, learned from local trades, and just kept building that business.
How long did that take for you to get out of the field and more into that project management role?
I said I was in business for 30 years, right? So you're asking a question that might go back in time. So I'm going to say likely 8 years ago, or within the first 8 years, I figured out that okay, I'm doing project management, but yet what's more important? I built a machine that I had to start feeding. In order to feed that machine, you had to meet with new clients and make sure that there was marketing set up to attract those new clients. So probably between 8 and 10 years in, I would step further and further out of the project management role.
And did you always work on the kinds of projects that you're working on now, or was that something that it evolved over the decades that you've been in business?
It evolved for certain. Like I don't think anybody steps into this industry and the building remodeling and say, I am only going to do luxury level stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
you have to build that reputation. You have to earn that reputation, is what you should say. And no, I will say this: when I was in high school, I started a framing carpentry crew, and I was actually 15 years old, and I used to ride my bike down the street because they were building new homes on a cul-de-sac, and I was fortunate to get picked up by a family-run business as a laborer on a framing crew. And I worked for them each summer or winter breaks, and then I think it was my senior high school year, or maybe it was my first year at college. If you recall, in the earlier 90s, KeyBank executives were moving to the area because KeyBank was headquartered in Albany. And I was able to frame some of these homes that were being built for these KeyBank executives. And I mean, you're talking mid 90s, maybe early 90s. These homes back then, I think, were over $1 million. So you can imagine how cool they were. So there was the taste. I had a taste of what that was like back then. And I always thought like, boy, if there's something I really want to be involved in, I want to do more of that. And in fairness, this is still upstate New York. We didn't see as much of it back in the 90s, early 2000s. So Saratoga was the right home base for business. I moved my family here, so we saw it, from the remodeling perspective of things, that we could improve homes and improve them with really nice luxury level products. So that's more of, the slower organic introduction into that type of business. Again, scaling up from what I thought was going to be, just remodeling business turned into, hey, would you consider building this home, because we were looking for that level of craftsmanship in the home that you guys are remodeling, but we needed a new construction. So we entered that field, I don't know, almost 10, 15 years ago, and took on some new construction project as well.
And that just kind of happened organically for you, where you were running your business day to day and someone reached out and was like, hey, I really love your work. I'm going to build this amazing home and I want you to do it.
Yeah, maybe not in those words, but yeah, like, yeah, I'd say like it was like, would you consider, is this a good fit for your team? I like what you did here. And again, you lessons learned, at first you're like, okay, if we were remodeling, we would do everything. We had the capability. I had some really, really good talents on the team. So we could even set a foundation. We knew enough how to set some forms or something, which is ridiculous today. We wouldn't try to do that because they know how to do it better than we do, and they're faster and more efficient than we are. Foundation crews. So, but I think that house was like, all right, we didn't do the foundation, but let's do all the framing. Let's do the roofing. Let's do the siding. Let's do all that work. And you're like, you engulf your entire team on one bigger project and realize, well, wait a minute, this doesn't pay all the bills. And we're leaving our remodeling contractors hanging, our clients hanging. So again, lessons learned was like, let's do it better the next time and find certain trades that do this skill for most of what they do, like a framing contractor, and let's pick away at the parts that they need us to do. And that was millwork. So we had this reputation for doing this outstanding millwork for each one of the projects we were involved with.
I, I'm curious because you talk about, lessons learned. You said that a couple times already in the show, right? I think most business owners can attest that there are lessons learned. There's also really hard lessons learned. When you were talking about, I don't want to say that I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth that you ignored the remodeling business, but you kind of moved your focus, right? And then there was a lesson learned there about moving your focus, but you still have remodeling clients. When you're moving up this path of decades for your business and making mistakes and learning lessons along the way, were lessons hard to recover from sometimes? I mean, were there points in your business where you're like, oh man, like I really messed up and I got some serious work in front of me to recover?
Yes and no, right? So I also said that when you're younger, being naive is almost an advantage because you don't always, I didn't have huge expenses. I never put myself in a position where I had this massive overhead. I might have had a truck payment. I might have had a rent for an apartment or something. It wasn't like I was ever in a financial crisis or I ever put myself out there to have to borrow money to stay alive. So yeah, what it was to me, Michael, is I'd see gaps in our production schedule. To me, that was the problem. That's where
Yep.
I fell short. So lesson learned was, boy, I can't be all things to all people. And I use the term also, and with our team now, it's like we say this a lot to each other. It was like, stay in your lane, and if I have to remind myself, like, if you can't be all things to all people, and if you're good at doing this aspect of work, stick with that, you know, stick with what you do well, conquer that first before you move yourself on to doing something more complex. And that's probably one of the best things that well, you don't figure it out when you're younger, as I said. You continue to try. Well, I did it once. I'll try it again. I'll
Hmm.
test the waters over here. But through the years, I'd be like, okay, let me just stay focused. This is what we're good at. This is what we do well with. We'll keep focusing on here. And that's true to this day. Like anybody on the team, if we start to veer off from that, I'll be reminded from somebody else to say, that doesn't feel like a job we should take on, or that doesn't feel right for some reason. So it's good.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my follow-up question was, like as you mentioned, right? You're 26 years old, you're running a new business, and you want to just say yes, right? People want to pay you to do stuff like, yeah, I'll do that, right? Even
Yeah.
when it's not necessarily in your wheelhouse, and so I was wondering of how you would now look at that to say like, because I was actually just in a discussion this morning with a group of people talking about saying no to the business that's not really the right kind of business, right? But when do you start to say no? Like in the beginning, you might want to say yes to everything because you need the revenue, but at some point you start to say no. And I'm just wondering what for you, and you kind of answered it, but maybe just to get a little deeper into the details of like, when do you really know that, okay, now I need to start saying no to certain things that maybe are not in our lane, as you phrased it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could tell you there's a point at, like when you know. I don't think it's like, hey, you now know you have to say no to these things. The lessons keep happening. But if there's a pivotal point in maybe my maturity in as a business owner was meeting my wife and settling down was like, oh, this is real. I'm going to now share more of my time, which was primarily invested in one thing and one thing only, and that was business because that's what I knew. And I made friends through business. So it was almost like, hey, I'm going to work to be with my friends and operate a business. And she she was always an inspiration to me. When I met her right away, I said, "Oh, she's going to be good for me." And one of the things that she said to me early on, and I never forgot this, as we were dating, was she was in grad school too for her MBA, and she made the remark or something about I said something about my company, and she said, "No, no, 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 you have a business, not a company." So what are you talking about? She goes, it's a business. You are part of that business. You are that business. When you have a company and you don't have to be part of that everyday operation, now you've established to be a company. And like it triggered something. Like at that point, I thought like, okay, what dissect that. What does that mean to people? And you recognize yourself as like, oh, I'm the estimator, I'm the project manager, I'm doing the sales, I'm, listening, working with the financial people, I'm doing all these things, wearing all the hats. It's like, oh, you're right. It doesn't really truly operate without me. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years to get there. So we joke about it even to this day from people that part of my team members that have been here for 25, 26 years, we laugh about it. We say for the first 20 years, we were practicing. It really wasn't until the last 10 years that we've evolved into a company. And I have pride now. I can say that, hey, I'm an integral part of this operation here, but I'm not it. I don't make all the things happen for all aspects of the company. It does run without me. And so there's the milestone that we finally hit.
So you can finally go on vacation and actually go on vacation. Is that
I
the
I leave next Wednesday for a trip and I am off grid for 5 days. There's no way to get a hold of me by cell phone, by text, nothing.
nice?
It does work now, yes.
Yeah, Derek and I are still trying to figure that out. We talk
Yeah.
about it all the time. Like, we're on vacation, answering text messages, answering emails, trying to,
Yeah.
setting appointments, and not there yet. Not here. Still working our way up that set of stairs, I guess.
That's right. Jim, what's like the secret to your being able to get to that point? Have you been developing systems and processes over the past, handful of years that really got you to that point? I guess what really put you in that position?
Yeah. It's never one thing, right? So systems and processes are very important. And it's funny because I know I've heard you ask the question in the past about like, what system, what process, or what habit, did you change in order to be this? And I think I thought about this and I was like, shoot, myself. I'm like, I don't do well following process or systems. That's just my mindset. I'm a rule breaker. I also have probably bad habits that aren't like good to show people. So what did I do? What changed for me? Not one thing. It was the people around me that developed processes and systems. What I did to contribute towards that is participated in peer groups, just not just locally, but I belong to a national group it was through NAHB. We've actually broken off, we're on our own and learn from other companies what works for them or what doesn't work for them, learn from their experiences. We went through an EOS training about 5 years ago, and that was a game changer as well. It just helped bring structure to the organization, which I knew I needed. I knew I was at that point where I was like, but I cannot be the only final decision maker on here. So we established a leadership team. We follow, a hybrid version of the EOS system, but it has helped sustain our growth and keep the maturity level of the operations flowing the way it should be. So yeah, it's multitudes of things. It's never really just one thing.
Who'd you use for an integrator for that?
We used Wendy
Waldron?
yeah,
Oh,
yep.
nice.
Wendy was lovely, really fun to work with, and it was a pretty cool experience. Some of my peer group members had done that, and they, good and bad and different. Everybody takes it a different way, and I guess what you have to realize is you're not going to fit yourself into all aspects of that. So we started slow. We did a trial, and then Wendy was fantastic to work with, and we went from the trial to okay, let's get into this thing. And I think we had our 5 consecutive meetings with her to build out what we wanted to. We had our own criteria. Here's our goals for this. And we walked away. This is the true story of this. Again, that company aspect was we finished on I don't remember, it was on a Friday with her. And the following week I was going away on one of these off-grid trips, and my off-grid trips include motorcycles on dirt bikes in random areas, and they're kind of dangerous. So I broke my foot, right? So broke my foot in another country and had to come back to have a couple surgeries to put myself back together. But what that did was pulled me out of the office. I couldn't sit up right. I had to go through 2 surgeries and have my foot rebuilt, and I was no longer able to participate in the way I had in the past. And I was like, wow, what perfect timing to have implemented all this other leadership group to make the decisions absent of me, because we always talked about what happens if you get hit by a bus. Well, it worked. It was really, timing was epic for me to break something. So I was able to step away. I was probably out of the office more than I was in for 4 months. And that was probably a worthwhile experience.
And things kept running, right?
Things kept running.
That's always
Yeah.
That's amazing. That sounds like a dream to me, Jim.
Go break your foot, Michael.
Yeah, I know. Is that all? I mean, I haven't been on a motorcycle in a few years, but I used to do similar trips, whether it was doing oh my God, what is it called? The single and double track that runs Connecticut up to Maine. Yeah. And I used to do some adventure bike stuff up into Canada and all that. A lot of fun, man. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I still do it.
Easy to get hurt.
Easy to get hurt, but after 50, you got to do certain things to just push yourself a little bit. You got to be outside your comfort zone, and that's what I found. It's like this is something I've always loved to do, and you see some beautiful country.
Yeah. Jim, I'd love to know, as you look back at the last 30 years, 2 things. Businesses always are facing problems, right? Every day as business owners, we're being hit with problems. We're trying to overcome things. I'd love to know not just what you currently see as one of your larger problems with where your company is now, but I'd also love to hear about just a big challenge that you overcame over the last 30 years that really was a big deal.
All right. So what we're challenged with today, in fairness, internally, what we are challenged with a lot of times is prices, as we all know, since 2020, prices have escalated far faster than anybody can get a grasp on.
Mm.
So what we're challenged by is our sales cycle is really long, really long. So it's especially in these really more complex projects. Some of these sales cycles, we're working with a client for a year before we start production, and nothing's slowed down. The escalation of products, materials, labor has just risen and risen and risen. So it's our biggest challenge, I'd say today. It's like we're not numb to the fact that it's going to rise next year, but each time you start to talk about, hey, our average kitchen remodel might be now 175 to $200,000, and then you use that average kitchen model that you did 2 years ago, and everything that was used then is now 28% more expensive today. And you just can't imagine, like, how is that possible? So understanding your numbers, knowing your numbers has been our challenge, like really trying to track where escalation prices are going next. So my brother is, an avid part of our purchasing here. He's got his thumb on the pulse of where costs are going. So he gets a weekly report on lumber costs. So he's always watching that because we're fixed fee in a lot of our projects, which means we've got to commit to a dollar based on where the client wants to spend. And tracking that to see where it's going next is it's a lot of work, to predict where that's going. So that's I'd say our biggest challenge. And in fairness, in our trade, which I'm grateful for, I love the fact that, I have really talented people that have been with me for a long time that make a living at this. They support their families with this, and they are paid well, and that's great. That's an expense, but at the same time, I'm proud of that, and they're comfortable being here. They like being part of this team, but there's a cost with having employees. So that ultimately is paid by the consumer that hires us, and it's the challenge being, always like price conditioning folks that just cold call to say, I saw this on your website and we're thinking of doing something similar. And then you're like, okay, the quick math on that, go back to the job cost report. What did it cost in 2018? Apply it to today's numbers. And then scare the heck out of them about what it cost. That's the reality where they go. So yeah, that's hard. That's something we deal with a lot. And then I'd say, really the challenge that we overcame that I'm proud of again is the fact that we were able to staff up in the last 5 years because there was such a big demand, because we had so much work in front of us. The scary part is, you could hire plenty of people who were looking for jobs or were jumping jobs. People were moving from other companies coming around, and everybody was chasing a dollar. Everybody wanted to buck more here or there. And we stuck to our guns. We bracketed all our price structure on all of our production teams rates of what we could fill somebody's shoes and hire them, and this is what they're expected. We wrote job descriptions for all those. We gave them a path of how to improve themselves, how to get to the next level, how to earn more money, and we attracted fantastic new talents that came to us. We put it out there from Indeed to LinkedIn, signage, anything we could. And the reality was our team would attract other carpenters and production folks to come on board because of how they communicated to somebody running into the lumber store or a Stewart or something. So that was, we hired, I think, 7 people in the last 4 years. And it might be more than that now, but that was, we did it, and we did it well. And we had really good hires. And I think to me, that was a great achievement.
Well, yeah, especially in the environment that we've been in, right? Where obviously Derek and I talked to a lot of people in the trades, and everybody's got problems finding quality staff and keeping them. And
it's, finding help is one, finding the quality help is the second. So
yeah,
there was plenty of interviews where we knew we could fill a void, but we didn't. We stuck to let's hold on to our values and hire the right fit rather than just a buy.
yeah. If I can paraphrase what you said to me, like what I heard was we have such a great team that other people wanted to be a part of that team. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say. Yeah. Thank you for
So
saying it that way. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's just
Yeah.
because I'm hearing you say it, and I'm like, it just sounds like such a testament to having a solid company culture and having a team that wants to be the best, that it strives to be the best, and how just that alone, because that's always been a goal of mine is with our company is to be so good that people want to work with us because we have such a great team, they vibe so well. They're doing great work, and people want to be a part of that, right? Like no one wants to be a part of the loser team,
Correct.
like they
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
part of the winning team, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. It's been a success. Attracting them was one thing, and then keeping them is the next aspect. And I believe we're different. I think once they join on and they understand we're an open book company, we set goals together in the beginning of the year. We review them every quarter. I still do all the reviews for my teammates, so I have one-on-one. I'm involved with enough of my team members on all different levels where I'm constantly getting feedback loops. So it's good to get the always be engaged. That's my thing. I'm always engaged with whatever's happening on here, just at whatever level. Sometimes it's on the surface, but at least I acknowledge and I'm engaged in whatever's going on.
You've mentioned, or we've talked about processes and systems a little bit. You mentioned company values in there. On the show we've been talking a lot with guests and like with people like Bill Tanzi that comes on the show from OpEx Shop. We've been talking a lot about organizational charts, and you mentioned, showing people a path for growth in the company. I'm just curious if the organizational chart or version of it is something that you use to help chart that path.
So we use accountability chart, yes,
Yeah.
and that's pretty clear of what that is. It's an accountability chart is, I think for us serves one purpose. It's like what's the remote reporting metrics? What
Mhm.
level is everybody reporting to? A little bit of a hierarchy it shows to that. That helps in that aspect. I also have my own what I refer to as an upside down org chart, and it's purposely done for us internally, and it's just sort of a mindset that we have where we put production on top
Mhm.
and put everybody else as support underneath that. And the point is that I drive home all the time is we're a construction company first. And if
Mhm.
we can ensure that our production team is doing their job at the best of their abilities with all the answers they need, all the materials and all the right trades to do perform that work, we all succeed. So that's one way. It doesn't necessarily show you the hierarchy of how to move up, but they grasp that idea where it's like, okay, yeah, we put that production team on top and everybody underneath that supports that team by whatever their role is in here. Then taking it farther, we have a job description for each person within the team, and there are we've hired. I'll give you the example of hiring a whether a laborer or an apprentice that comes to the field, and this is something fun we've done. Last summer, we had two apprentices that were hired on earlier in the season and had moved up to what we call a carpenter one level. And I'm not the one that makes the decision. It's the carpenters or the lead carpenters make the decision and say, hey, Tom's doing really well at this. Let's let's have the conversation with him. He fills out a self-evaluation score, talk about what his strengths are now compared to when he started. Then they perform a small test. They have him build a set of sawhorses within a certain time frame live under them. And then if they do it within the 20-minute allocated period with the raw materials they have and a half-baked plan, because that's reality, right? We don't always have all the information. They have to solve for some of those things. And if they do it successfully, the team brings them up to the next level. Then they become a carpenter one. And then it happens the same way. If carpenter ones are eligible to become a carpenter two, the lead carpenter will let me know or let them know that your experience level has brought you to the next level. And with that, each one comes a different pay grade. So they strive. Two factors: one, they want the title, and two, they know that there's more money involved in it as they
Yeah.
grow. So,
I know we've got to jump over here to the Patreon side so we can keep things on time. But one of the questions I had as we've been going through is, you know, you said you have some employees that have been with you for 20, 25 years, which is an incredibly long time
Yeah.
and an amazing thing to, I'm sure, to be able to say, let alone for me to be able to hear, right? So
Yeah.
what's the secret to retention?
Man, if I, I, I think so. Think of those people that have been here, and it's now 20. I think somebody's coming up in their 27th year involved here. That means 3 years after I started this business,
Yeah.
I hired them and hired them as like a laborer, and it's somebody that now runs multi-million-dollar projects, and he's just that capable. They grew, that core group grew with the company. So they've seen the hard times, but they also contributed to the growth of the company. They all have stake in the game here. Like we are pretty, as I said, open book, but we're also pretty clear on there's a job to be done. You know what your task is, you know what your crews are, you own that component, but you also benefit when you succeed at that component. So there's and I think I know I've always had that mindset to just include people in the bigger picture and how things operate, how things grow, so that there's more buy-in to that. And I truly believe that is why they're still here. It's not just we didn't come out of this, just paying people a lot of money just to stay. There's ownership. They all believe they have a piece of it. They've got stake in the game, and they still strive for that.
Love it. Jim, I know we got to jump over to the Patreon side, so don't go anywhere. But for people that are listening to the main episode right now, if they want to learn more about Teakwood, about who you guys are, what you guys are doing, projects that you're working on, how do they find you guys?
They find me any social media outlet that we have right now between Facebook, LinkedIn. My email address can be posted on your website if that's helpful. Okay. And happy to chat.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for everybody for listening. Of course, if you are not familiar with the Patreon side of what we do, we do a short segment after the show that's for our membership only crowd. It is a subscription. It's a whopping $5 a month, guys, but it just helps to get some more resources for the show. And, the information that we're putting in there is designed specifically for folks that are trying to grow and scale businesses in the trades, right from folks like Jim talking about how they did it and kind of get into a little bit more detail, whether it's hiring, sales, marketing, all the things that you guys are trying to figure out. So hop on over to the Patreon side. I'm sure Taylor will put a link in the show notes for us. And thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll see you on the other side.
And that wraps up another episode of Blue Collar Startup. A big thank you to our sponsors, 5 Towers Media, Daigle Cleaning Systems, Daigle Fire Solutions, The Michaels Group, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Peoplease, and Catamount Consulting for making this podcast possible. And thank you for tuning in. If you learned something or felt inspired, connect with us on our website at bluecollarstartup.io or email us at hardhat.bcsu@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions and topic ideas. Help us spread the word by sharing the show and following us on social media for updates. Until next time, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and keep hustling like your future depends on it.